Welcome to My First Boat. In this channel we will show you the step-by-step restoration of our 40-foot vintage steel yacht, with the goal to someday living on it full time. And here we are, in the 30th week of this restoration project. Our final days on land are here. We still have a million things to do to get this boat ready to go into the water, so let's get right into it. First we're gonna have a look at how this anchor works. I found this lever in the anchor chain locker. That's gotta have to do something with it. One way for down, the other way for up, right? Well, apparently that's not how it works. So my friend suggested that you just take the chain by hand and lower it down manually. Since there doesn't seem to be any other way, I guess that's how it's meant to be. Because the chain goes up whether you push forward or pull backward. Okay. So that seems to work, so let's make a check on that and move on. Next, let's have a look at that bow thruster. First, let's hook it up to a 12-volt battery. And I'm using one of my Firefly batteries, which is not the ideal type of battery, but it should work. Here's a 500 amp fuse and a bow thruster itself. The brand name is Side Power, but I have no idea as to the rated power of the bow thruster. There's only one controller and it's located on the flybridge. To power it on, you press the two on buttons simultaneously. Bow thruster, check. Next, let's take care of that rotten steering mechanism, where we think the problem resides behind this panel. Yeah, that doesn't look too good. When steering to the right, it goes pretty okay. The rudder goes all the way until it hits the stopper all the way back. Now when steering to the left, it's a whole different story. The rudder goes about 2/3 of the way until it stops, because the noose here from the cable is in the way. So let's first loosen everything up and then we try to adjust the cable's position. Let's cut away some of that surplus wire. And then we make the hole bigger where the cables pass through, so that the screws don't get stuck. Next we tighten everything back up, this time with a little more room for the steering to go all the way left. And there you have it. It still doesn't go all the way left, but almost. So, steering mechanism, check. Next we have this through-hull here below the waterline, so let's put a valve on it. And after long deliberation, I decided to use Sikaflex 552 to seal it. Of course most people would recommend some thread sealing tape, but since we really only have one shot at this, and I've never done it before, I didn't want to risk it. With Sikaflex it's much easier. As long as you put enough on it, it should be tight. Well, we'll find out soon anyway. Next, it's time to hoist our diesel generator into the boat. A huge thanks to the staff here, who made the whole process extremely quick and efficient. Next, I'm gonna prepare a little workstation here in the helm, because we are gonna bring more material. First up, a few more batteries. This is our lithium battery bank. And then another 4 Firefly batteries. Here's our Victron 5000 watt inverter charger. Let's put those 4 Fireflies down in the engine room. And then we're gonna wire them up into a 24 volt battery bank by connecting 2 and 2 in parallel and then those 2 in series. We are using a 50mm square cable thickness with tinned copper wire strands. Here's our large crimping clamp. And here's the last one. Next we are using some heat shrink tube with glue on the inner side in order to seal the wires hermetically from the elements. And there you go, ready for the install. Alright, the battery bank is done. Let's see if we have 24 volts. And we do. Next, let's wire up the inverter charger so we have AC power. And by the way, most of the things we are doing now is just temporary. Any further and proper install will be done when we are on the water. I cleaned the expansion tank from the engine cooling system, and so now I can reinstall it. Until our built-in diesel tank is properly set up, we're gonna have to rely on this canister. Next, I would like to introduce our sponsor Filippi, manufacturer of various marine electronic components, with whom we are working to build a pretty modern and sophisticated electronic system on our boat. What you see here is only a small part of the components we're gonna use. In fact, all the cool stuff is still missing, and we'll show you all about that in the coming weeks. Let's start with this 100-meter cable spool with 2 tinned copper wires inside of a protective coat. These should be convenient for any longer distances, such as for the navigation lights. So let us start with that. And please note that because time was so short, I did not cover every single step of every single light I wired, but here is a good summary of everything I did. Some of the light's wires were so heavily corroded that I had to rewire them completely. I'm using new 24 volt LED bulbs here on the right to replace the old bulbs. I'm trying to figure out what's the best path for laying the new wires. And at this stage I'm using simple clamps to fixate the cables in certain positions, and I don't want to make any hasty decisions in this matter, since we haven't really figured out what kind of paneling we're gonna use, and we haven't put in the insulation yet, and so on. So for now, I'm afraid this too is just another temporary solution. Here now the light that sits behind the aft cabin. I make sure that the length of the cable is sufficient for the path it's supposed to take eventually. And let's replace the bulb here as well. Next, let's erect this cross here, or whatever it's called. And then let's have a look at this anchor light. The glass on top is simply screwed on. And of course the light bulb socket is a completely different system than the bulbs I got, so I'm gonna have to come up with a solution there. And next let's remove the top light here, and then we try to figure out how we can run the cables through this mast. There's a socket that goes through the roof to the inside of the cabin, but the connector is too far gone, so I'm not gonna be able to use it. And of course no time left to get a new one. So here I'm putting in my temporary anchor light solution, which I'm not gonna show you in detail because it's not proper marine wiring, but nevertheless it should hold until we have time to install it properly. Here now I'm putting back together the contraption for the top light. Put in a bulb here as well, and then this should be done for now. For my next trick, I'm screwing 4 strong magnets onto a wooden plank. Each one has a force of 10 kilos. Here's a quick proof of concept. Here's our new terminal block, suitable for up to 30 consumers. And I'll be honest with you, before buying it for this project, I didn't even know of the existence of such a thing. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna wire up these lights using these components to my best knowledge and judgment. In this way, the terminal block is gonna be my negative distribution and the bus bar is gonna be the positive distribution. Now from here on out, it's all gonna be temporary solutions and basically a guy not knowing what he's doing. So please don't take this as a how-to guide. Do not try this at home, and especially do not try this on your boat. Now let's wire this up to our switch panel. Connect our positive and negative distribution to the battery bank. Double check that we have 24 volts. And we do, so we're all set. Now then, let's give it a try. This switch is for the nav lights. So far so good. And the anchor light is also working. Next, let's take care of some bodyworks, such as here where we closed off some through hulls. And I thought I'd try the International Watertight, which is a 2-component filler paste, well suited for under the waterline application, and in its effect very similar to glass fiber paste, just without the glass fiber. Alright, here's the first one. And here's another. And there are a couple other ones, but I'm not gonna show those for time reasons. I got the cheapest color matching anti-fouling that I could find, because the anti-fouling had been done on the boat a few months before we bought it, so I didn't have to redo the entire hull. There's this rusty area here underneath the propeller. I scrape off the paint and superficial rust with my proven method. Then I apply some overtroll oil. And after a few days of curing, I cover it up with some anti-fouling. For this next part, I have to warn you, as it may not be what you would have expected. What you see right now is on the very day the boat is scheduled to go into the water. With all the other more urgent things we had to do before, there simply wasn't enough time to finish the bodyworks on the hull. So I did the next best thing, talking about temporary solution. So there you go. We got a new dinghy. Alright, we are now 30 minutes before the launch, so it's time to give the boat its new name and baptize it in the traditional German fashion. Well, mostly. Right, ready or not, here we go. So first thing to do is to check if there are any leaks. First here on the propeller shaft, we're all good. And then there's that through hull, which is also not leaking. Then of course there's the exhaust, but it is also completely dry. And with that, I am happy to announce that our boat is 100% watertight, at least from below. This could be useful. Let's start the engine. So this is our setup on the inside. And here we go.
Oh mein Gott, es bewegt.
We realized that our destination is in the other direction, so let's turn around. And so for now, let us enjoy the ride. It was really cold on that day, so I put on more layers of clothes. So yeah, she drives very smoothly, and it's the biggest thing I've ever moved in my life. And then, shortly before our destination, the engine suddenly stopped, so I quickly threw the anchor to go and have a look what happened. It turns out the fuel line was badly positioned inside a canister and had started to suck up air. Of course, my friend and I knew what to do, so we quickly bled the system and started the engine again. I said we started the engine again. There you go. So let's hoist the anchor and bring this baby home. So after arriving at our destination, my friend went back on land to go recover his car and go home to his family, and I went back on the boat. Here's the view out the window the next morning. And with that, my friends, I'm signing off for today. But before I do, I want to take a moment and really thank everybody who helped us get to this point. This is not a one-man's job, not even a two-man's job. There are many people involved in this project to get it to where we are today. Without your help, we couldn't have done it. So, thank you very much. And see you again in the next video. Sorry.